get the tonnage of sugar that they're supposed to import. So is it true that they didn't know that they were importing excess sugar?
Excess. You will get an excess of 335,655. What necessitated that increase? When you have the figures and you have gone overboard.
One thing is true, that there was an increase. What was imported vis-a-vis what was produced in the country. It is true that there was excess of about the 334. That's not disputed.
The part which we are wondering is the quantities. You set the quantities for the milk powder, but you didn't set the quantities for the sugar.
I would like to find out what was the rationale used that they get importers other than the sugar millers themselves. Why didn't you specifically say sugar millers? We have 12 of them.
The situation at that time prevailing could not allow, and that is why it was felt that it was better that everybody is allowed to import. Those who had sugar, they can bring it to alleviate the problem that was facing there. The situation of the milk was different. So yes, let me just clarify, it was not quantity bound. It was yes.
Please don't, I'll give you an opportunity. Don't get agitated. Yeah?
Well, those are just some of the proceedings that we've covered for you earlier, and that is, of course, the Joint Parliamentary Group that are probing the sugar scandal, where two CSs appeared before that Joint Parliamentary Committee. In studio, we still have Manwa Osea, who is a lawyer, and Jacob Oyugi from COFEC. Now, Osea, let me begin with you. From the proceedings there, it's very much evident that there is too much sugar in this country. And of course, they've been brought in duty-free. And of course, the local manufacturers, the local factories cannot compete with the prices of these sugar importers. I mean, where will this leave the local sugar factories?
Well, it's unfortunate that we, as a country, have killed institutions and industries that we have created ourselves. As a country, we produce sugar in large amounts, and we have seen it. These industries die because of, importation of sugar from different countries and being circulated within our country. We have seen a number of companies which buy sugar from farmers go down because of sugar that is being imported at a cheaper price and sold at a cheaper price, now making the production of the sugar within the country not profitable. And I think it's boiling down to the farmers, the sugarcane farmers in the country, especially the western region, who have actually dedicated their farmland to production of sugar, and at the expense of having other individuals actually importing sugar, cheaper sugar to circulate within the country. I think it goes beyond the question of whether the CS or the government approved actual importation of sugar. It goes into the question as to whether the government is committed in securing the farmers, because the person who's hurt at the end of the day is the person who is actually producing sugar within the country, who is facing a competition from a cheaper sugar that is coming out of the country. And we have seen the interested parties, who I'll term as, for lack of a better word, the sugar daddies, who are actually circulating the contraband sugar from different countries and selling it within the country, have done is that they have killed the industries, the sugar industries that we have in the country. There is an obligation placed upon government. And considering that this Jubilee government has been priding itself in the 4 agenda, which one of them is industrialization, the reviving of sugar industries has been an issue that has been before this government and even previous governments. And the issue of importation of sugar, having millers competing with private importers, and having certain either millers being given a go-ahead or importers, that competition has killed the production itself. And we as a country, the government, especially the president, has an obligation to actually put in measures, stringent measures, especially for the millers, that if you are a sugar miller within the Republic, you are denied, or rather it's banned, that you're not supposed to import sugar at all. So that if at all there is sugar there's a deficit in sugar, then the government should actually give such an opportunity to somebody else who will not actually kill the industry itself. So there's a lot that needs to be done in terms of, we are not in deficit of the laws. The laws are very clear, and we need to actually strengthen the institutions that we have, and also scrutinize these individuals, because at the end of the day, the people who are importing this sugar are doing it at the expense of the farmers and for their selfish interests. So there's need to actually scrutinize the faces behind this, the political figures behind this. We need to put names into the allegations. We need to put names into the crimes which have been committed. That way we can be able to solve the sugar menace in this country.
Also, we're going to talk shortly about who needs or who is supposed to protect the sugar farmers here shortly. But let me play this same question back to Jacob. And in order to contextualize this for our viewers, Jacob, it's good to point out that to make it, of course, I need to make this practical for some of our viewers. The imported sugar is able to sustain the Kenyan market for the next 1.5 years without growing a single cane locally. This will spell doom for the farmers, right?
Cheap is very expensive, to start with that. Because the imported sugar is much cheaper than the one that is produced locally. So if we are focusing that the sugar that has been imported, it will be able to serve this country for this time, we are losing it. We cannot start bargaining the health of the Kenyans plus the money of the importers. Because in this case, the competition between those who can import and those who cannot import is going overboard. In regard to what the CS said in today's committee, that they were allowed because we had a deficit in Kenya. It's very clear that because the sugar that was being imported was cheap, people thought they'd be getting more profits if they import more into our country. And it's very clear that we cannot be able to sabotage the health of Kenyans. It is high time that we put names into their respective allegations, such that we be able to grow our Kenyan industries. We have really killed them.
Yes.
And if we are emphasizing that there is need of sugar in our market, sugar that is really genuine, then we need to go ahead and destroy all that is in the market already to keep the health of the Kenyans safe.
Yes, and I'm going to talk to you shortly about what needs to be done. If you expect us, COFEC, to see heads rolling in these various state agencies. But Hosea, some time back when maize was imported into Kenya, there was some sort of a ceiling, the same with powdered milk. I mean, why is sugar different? And who is out there who's supposed to protect the sugar farmers?
Well, the backstops are the government, because the government has an obligation to protect its citizens from harmful products of this nature. And as I stated earlier, we have institutions which have been mandated to actually carry out different functions to ensure that whatever product that is released to the market is fit for the purpose.
Yeah.
We have the Kenya Revenue Authority, which actually looks into products which are imported into the country. It has its obligation and mandate. It ought to actually protect and question and actually scrutinize whatever product that is coming into the Kenyan territory, including the Kenya Ports Authority. We have the Kenya Bureau of Standards, and as I stated earlier, they have a bigger obligation because their function as KEBS is to actually standardize and evaluate on the value of the products that are coming in, and actually ensure that they are not contraband. So there are obligations which are vested in different institutions, which are actually supposed to be held responsible in whatever product that is disseminated to the public. We have seen, as you stated earlier, you saw the importation of maize, The issue of maize was emotional, but it had a different dimension because the maize product was not poisonous. The question was as to how maize came from Mexico within 3 days to the Kenyan ports, and how it went through the clearance and all that. Today we have a product which is harmful and which is in circulation, and where we have a statement from one CS stating that this product is fit for use and there's no elements of mercury. And then we have also the office of the DPP and the security agencies stating that this product is not fit for the purpose that it was meant for. So there is need to scrutinize this issue from every level. Once the product gets to the port, who's responsible? Who's supposed to ensure that this product fits the standards that is required? And once it gets to the port, how does it get to the consumer? Every other person should take responsibility for whatever errors that were committed that led to actually having a contraband product in circulation. I believe the country we live in and the vested interests that we have in certain figures who are hell-bent in making money, there are the numerous products which most probably Kenyans are consuming that are not really fit for the purpose that it's meant for, and where maybe there are fake stickers from Kenya Bureau of Standards which have not been scrutinized. So there's need to actually ensure that every institution comes up and takes its duty. That way we can be able to actually have a clean environment where products which are circulated are passed through the right process. We need to have the president, ensure that people resign from offices. Because
yes, of course, we do expect heads to roll soon, and the probe is still going on, Sarah.
Yes.
Let me engage Jacob, of course, is representing COFEC here. And Jacob, are you not seeing some sort of a double standard here? Because when we are talking about maize importation, there was some sort of a ceiling to the importation of that product. Then the same applies to powdered milk. Why is sugar different? And as COFEC, do you expect to see some sort of the same standard applied to these products, especially foodstuffs?
As COFEC, we tend to believe that we have two sides in this. We have the back foot, and then we have the front, whereby the back front entails the government agencies, the regulators, the service providers, and the law itself. And at the end of the day, all that is done here, the result will be felt with a consumer. And if any error happens in the back front, whereby we have the government agencies, we have the law, then we have the service providers, as a consumer, he expects that the sticker that is in any good there in the market, and the sticker is from KEBS, a consumer has a right from the Consumer Protection Act that if there is a sticker from a verified government regulator, a consumer can consume that. But now, what we need to ask ourselves is, this sugar is a contaminated sugar. Thanks to our CS, Dr. Fred Matiang'i, that if he never stated it into the public could have never known. What he might have thought, maybe, it's good I saved the life of Kenyans.
Have you received any complaint from consumers so far? Because clearly some of this sugar are out there.
We are receiving so many complaints from consumers, and on Friday we received a complaint that there are some stations whereby consumers were being arrested because of having this sugar, and we acted upon, and the issue was solved. But now, in this case, if the CS never said that there is contaminated sugar, or if the sugar is contaminated, who could have known? So there is much that needs to be done in the back front, whereby there should be much coordination between the government agencies, the regulator, and the service providers to ensure that they have kept the law to the letter. for them to provide goods to the consumers that are up to the standards.
And also, if you look at some of the figures here, as we conclude this not so sugary debate, Kenya produces about 600,000 tons of sugar annually. The annual consumption is about 870,000 tons. But what was imported, according to the probe by the Joint Parliamentary Committee, was more than 400,000 tons. It seems like there was more than, more sugar that was imported, more than even the deficit that was there.
Yes, I think the intention is, and that's why we're saying that the buck stops at the government, since it's the one that gave the leeway to importation of this deficit of sugar, and yet they went ahead and actually imported a huge amount which was beyond the deficit that we needed. So I think the whole issue is structured in a way to kill local sugar manufacturers. And then that should be the point, because there is that conflict between millers and people who actually sell sugar or import sugar independently. That the intention of the importer was to actually ensure that whoever is producing sugar within the country does not actually have an opportunity to sell the same. And I think the essence of these institutions and the questioning and the parliamentary committees ought to actually ask tough questions as to why and who allowed the importation of the extra amount of sugar beyond the amount that was needed. So those are the questions we are asking ourselves. Do we need a commission to investigate such straightforward issues, especially when we understand that the obligation was before the government and the officers of government to ensure that the products which are coming are within the limits that is required? So by virtue of the fact that the same was allowed to come into the country, there must be that hand behind it. And that is the hand that everyone should actually be looking for, so that we actually nip the part that actually is perpetrating this sugar issue, or making this sugar issue become an issue within the Republic. So we need to actually go down to the root of who sits behind the table of approving and actually scrutinizing this product. Because obviously the surplus was intended to, the extra sugar was intended to actually completely kill the market. So who's hell-bent in killing the Kenyan sugar market? Who's hell-bent in ensuring that the farmers who actually grow sugar are not getting the benefits of the products that they grow?
Yes, so sir, we hope that some of these questions are going to be answered by the Joint Parliamentary Committee on the sugar scandal that is still ongoing. Many thanks for your input. That is lawyer Manwa Hosea, and then as well as Jacob Oyugi, is a member of the Consumer Federations of Kenya, well known as a COFEP. And many thanks to you for watching. Of course, this is the big story right on KTN News. My name is Yusuf Ibrahim. Even as the debate continues to rage on who are these importers, and the NC leader, Musalia Mudavadi, is already on record calling on the president to come up with some sort of a commission of inquiry into the contraband menace. Many thanks for watching. Ben Kitili is up next with KTN Prime.